guess we're live now.
We're gonna give y'all guys a few minutes to catch up with us because we're 5 minutes off schedule. We apologize. So. Will it show up top? How many people's?
I don't know. It did one time, and now it's not doing it this time. So
okay. Well, we're gonna go ahead and go. So they can watch. Okay. All right. The inclination to believe in the fantastic may strike some as a failure in logic or gullibility, but it's really a gift. A world that might have a Bigfoot or a Loch Ness monster is clearly superior to one that definitely does not. And that's a quote from Chris Van Allsburg. Hi, I'm Kevin, aka Casper Hunter. We want to welcome everybody to our podcast, Paranormal Plus. With me is...
I'm David, the medium.
Not to be confused with the bald. Alright, so... we've all heard the stories of the large, hairy ape man that lives elusively among the woods, but is he fact or fiction? One local author thinks that he is real. With us tonight, we have a special guest. She is the published author of 3 books.
I'm just going to have to mention them.
There is The Dark Dreams of Yesterday, Revenge, and Ruby's Silver Lining. I want to introduce you to published author Juanita Cox.
Hello, how are you?
Welcome to the show, Juanita.
Glad to be here. So
you've done some research, and you said in an earlier interview that you had came in contact with a unidentified creature down in the swamp area. Could you?
It was in 1964.
1964.
It was on Clay Cup Road in Ware County.
Okay, I know that area. That's down there near Tatumville, right?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
The creature run. We were driving around, and my husband and I and our son, and the creature ran across the road in front of us. Got a very good look at it. It was not a bear. We did not see its face, but seen its hands and its feet, and it was covered completely in hair all over his body. He stood about between, I'll say, 7 and 8 feet tall. When he pardon?
David was just saying that was a big boy.
Not as big as what they had reported back in 1829.
Right. So you think this was Junior?
This is undoubtedly must have been an adolescent, because he was not
a juvenile, huh?
Yeah, a juvenile. He did have a big foot. We got out and looked at it, and
that's what she said.
It had 4 toes, and they had nails, or fingernails, or whatever you call them, on it. And the foot looked to be about maybe 13 inches and wasn't as wide as the one that was back in the 1800s.
All right, so tell me. So you got out, you looked at the footprint. Were you sure what you thought you seen was? I mean, there's been a lot of people say they've seen different type of creatures down in Okefenokee. There's a lot of reportings of cryptid type creatures. This one.
This was not a bear.
So he was standing upright.
He was upright, and he swung his arms like a lot of people do when they walk. But he was running.
So he ran funny.
He ran in front of us, and Paul slammed on brakes to keep from hitting him.
Okay.
It was very close. I mean, and he just kept running. He didn't turn around and look at us or nothing. He just kept
and
going on to the other side of the...
Are you sure? I mean, are you sure that what you seen was not a human?
Wasn't a human. Might have been a cross between some kind of animal and a human.
Do you think that's logical?
I don't know. Do you?
Well, I know Russian scientists have been documented to take one dog's head and put on another dog to create a two-headed dog. So.
Yeah, I think that dog lived for like 8 hours or something.
Lived for 8 hours, yeah.
Well, this ran like a human.
So
it was like a human just leisurely running across the road.
Okay.
But it didn't look like a human as far as the hair. He was covered from the top of his head all the way down with a long grayish color hair.
Okay.
Not fur. It was hair.
So tell me, you made mention when I interviewed you earlier that your mother, y'all were telling your mother,
my mother-in-law.
Your mother-in-law, and she knew of this creature, or?
Yes, she had been told of this creature because her husband and a work crew that worked for Cypress Lumber Company or something, they were putting a tram down into Billy's Island and from there to other islands.
Okay.
They had a work crew. And her husband's brother stayed with the workers, and her husband came back to...
Well, who was her husband? Who was his brothers?
Okay, he was Big Matt Cox.
Okay.
Matthew Henderson Cox.
All right.
And his younger brother was with him, and he was Will Cox.
Will Cox. Now, that name sounds familiar.
He wasn't as big as Matt.
Okay.
Most people called Matt Big Matt.
Now, Will had something to do with the Okefenokee Swamp. I believe, if I remember correctly, he's the one that started the Okefenokee Swamp Park here. So,
I'm not sure about that, but I know
he was also part of. There were several movies that were filmed back in the 50s or 60s, and he was.
Wilderness.
It was called what?
Lure of the Wilderness. Jeffrey Hunter and Bill Brunner, and I can't remember all that was there, but they would go to my husband's home. His mother would cook dinner for them, and they'd sit on the front porch and tell tales. So that was way before I was in the family, though I didn't get the pleasure of meeting any of them.
Okay. All right. So, Mav Cox, Will Cox, and how many brothers were they?
Okay, there was Uncle Kyle. I can't remember all of them.
Okay, that's okay.
Uncle
That's
Kyle,
okay. So you were telling us, or started to tell us, what something happened. They seen the Bigfoot or the swamp ape or the swamp skunk or whatever it's called.
Matt had to go back to the office, and he decided to stay and make his way back the next morning. Well, when he got back, there was none of the crew there. Will was not there. The door had been removed from the cabin, and there was nothing to be seen. And so Matt went to calling for them, and one by one they began to come out of the woods. And Will told him that whatever it was big, and it was strong, and it had red eyes. And it tore the door off of the cabin, and when the door was torn off, that they scattered any way they could out of the cabin. So he had told this story to his family, so they had heard about it. And he had told me when Paul and I married, because Paul told him that I researched a lot of times on stuff like this. And so he told me the story. But that was in the Ware County swamp area. But we went back many times to Clay Cup Road trying to see if we could see this creature again, and we never did. That was, like I said, 1964.
Well, I'm going, Ms. Cox. I'm going to let you know that this is not an isolated thing that where you guys have seen it. This creature's been seen by multiple people, or by different descriptions. There's been other cryptids described, and even some that have attacked dogs and killed the dogs. We have David and I have went out and we've talked to a few people in the community, and they have told us that they are willing to come on the show at a later date and describe what they have experienced. So what you're describing could very well be a swamp ape or a Bigfoot, or it's definitely a cryptid. So do you feel like y'all were in danger or anything, or it just was running from y'all?
Car crossed in front of the car. It didn't stop. It didn't turn towards us. It run right almost. If Paul had not slammed on brakes, he would have hit him. And when we told his mother about what we had seen, she put her finger across both her lips, and she made the shushing sound and said, "You young'uns don't tell nobody." And we kept it kind of to ourselves for a long time.
Do you think that she was telling you that so you wouldn't speak it into existence? Because some people believe that if you speak of something, you speak it into existence.
Fearful.
Yeah, fearful.
She was fearful.
Okay. You getting prepared for the podcast. You told me that you had been researching an incident that happened in or near the Okefenokee back in 1829, I think it was.
Well, every time somebody wrote an article about it, they changed the place and the date. It happened the last part of 1828, and it was hunters. Actually, how they found the footprint was that they were in a drought in this area, and the swamp was almost dried up. And two men from the Ware County area, and they didn't say whether it was a boy or girl, but they took a child with them, and they were going to walk across the Okefenokee and see how far they could explore in there because it was almost dry. And they went for a couple of days walking through, and they had a little canoe-like thing. If they could run into water, they could cross it. And when they found the footprint, they didn't see no animal or no creature. They just found the footprint. And that footprint...
A footprint?
There was a couple of footprints there, and they measured them. And it was... the footprint was 18 inches long and 9 inches wide.
Jeez, that's bigger than Shaquille O'Neal.
And they decided that they didn't want to run into this thing, so they made their way back to their homesteads. This was before, that the government took over the Okefenokee and told them all that they had to move out. And so they told the story of the footprint. And there was 9 hunters from Florida, right across the line. They didn't say whether it was Callahan or Hilliard that they come from, but they looked up these 2 men that had went in there. And one of them agreed to guide them back into the area and show them where they found the footprint. And they went in there, and they took them to the place, and they had been traveling for a couple of days with the same powder in their gun. So they had to get that old powder out and reload. So they were firing their guns up in the air when this thing attacked them. And they started shooting.
It aggressively attacked?
Probably because they were firing their guns.
Well, could it have been that it had an offspring there?
Might have. But anyway, they shot it several times, and it just kept attacking. It killed 5 of those Florida hunters.
Now, how did it kill them?
Before it succumbed to the bullets that had hit it, the balls that had hit it.
Yeah. So it was muskets. 1828, 1829 was the old powder musket, black powder guns. So.
You can't just keep the same powder in them guns. You have to.
Yep.
Dry powder in there. Well, when the beast fell to the ground, it was hollering and screaming. And the 2 that was left, they decided, well, the hunters, I don't know how many was left of them. There was 9, and it killed 5, so there was 4 left.
Yeah.
But those men and the guide was afraid that the calls and the screams of this thing would call others to him. And so they didn't even bother to pick up the bodies of the ones that were killed. They just...
How did they get killed?
How did he kill them? I mean, did he strike them with something, or...
No. Physical force.
Did it give any description? I mean, we got eyewitnesses that encountered an attack by a swamp man creature. swamp ape man
A
creature.
freaking giant one.
In the article that I read on that about the Florida hunters, it gives his the size of it.
Yeah, so it didn't say anything about how the men were killed.
I think he just broke their necks, or because it didn't say he didn't have a weapon. He just come at them.
And did they say at any time how many times that he was shot before he died?
Well, they were shooting up in the air to start with to empty out the powder.
That was 5 of them doing that, right?
And there was 9 of them doing that.
4 of them came there and shot him. 4 people shot him. That was 4 times, if they was lucky.
There were 9 hunters and a guide.
Maybe.
So there was 10.
So that was 10 hunters, or 10 people.
Well, how many people died?
5.
5 of them were killed, and they left their bodies in
They
the.
left their bodies. Now, I read another report from another area. They said they built a fire and burned them. I don't know. I haven't found any other proof on that. But I am planning on going to the public library and see if I can go back into the archives of the papers of that period of time. Because I got a curiosity about things like that, and I just can't leave it hanging.
Yeah. Well, you know, curiosity killed the cat.
Well, I'm not going to get that close for him to.
In this case, curiosity killed the hunters.
Yeah. They went with the intention of killing whatever this was.
So
they was hunting it.
they were hunting it. So
They were
basically,
hunting it, and when they started firing their muskets or whatever, rifles or whatever, up into the air, this thing fell correct.
Now you got to think about that. Hold on a minute. Think about this. Me and Kevin, we're going to go hunting for this Bigfoot, right? When we get there, we've been hunting there for days for this Bigfoot. Now we decide, let's get rid of the only one bullet that we have. Let's shoot it in the air. And then when we do that, the thing comes and snaps our neck.
yeah.
That's like the worst luck you can ever have.
Well, the others,
What
they
if?
left.
What
They
if?
got out of there.
What if? And you know, I'm just the way the brain works is if you got a piece here and a piece of evidence here, your brain's gonna fill in the gap. My brain's filling in the gap. So what if they were shooting? They were discharging these guns, and this 8 man was actually an 8 woman protecting her young. She thinks that they're there to kill her offspring. It attacked because you know, and I've heard very few stories about Sasquatch ever or whatever. Well, yeah, whatever the cryptid creature is attacking. Now, you know, with the swamp werewolf, he's attacked things, but his description is not the description she gave of her encounter, and it's not the description that she's talking about with these guys.
No, I don't.
Okay, this is the description that the ones that made it out give. They measured the dying beast, and they claimed it was 13 feet tall and was covered in coarse hair. The remaining 2 men decided to run for their lives out of fear that the creature's screams would bring the more of them to that area.
Making some kind of noises.
Yeah, that's you got to imagine 13 foot the sound projected from its lungs and vocal cords. So you just said that the 2 remaining, but there was 4 that lived, right?
Yeah, but that's what they had in the report. I don't put much value in a report that has been redone so many times.
Right.
I want to read the original.
Right.
And because each time somebody writes about it, they add something to it or they take away from it.
That's a good call. That's a good call. We got a historian that works for our group, and I will get you in contact with her, and maybe both of y'all can put your heads together and find some information, dig it up, and we can have you back on the show to discuss what y'all find. I'm interested in seeing what this newspaper report from 1829, 28 may have, and I'm pretty sure that our listeners are interested too. Matter of fact, they're probably gonna run out and try to seek out this newspaper and beat y'all to it. It's gonna be like a competition now.
Well, you're gonna have to go to a library or somewhere that they can get into the archives of these newspapers. Number one, you got to find out the names of the newspapers. And I'm sure that probably the first reporting of it came from Florida.
Well, I know a few years ago, and I'm just going to throw this out there. A few years ago, I was doing some investigations on some incidents that happened down in Folkestone or Charlton County, Georgia, and it serves me to remember that what had happened was they were doing some land construction, and the equipment, they wound up unearthing very, very old Indian what do you call them? Cemetery?
Burial grounds. Now, somehow I feel like that this creature is connected to the Native Americans.
It may be. But
you have to understand too, during that period of time, you had those that were escaping from slavery. They go down into the swamp and hide. You had deserters that was hiding in the swamp, and those that just hid down in there to keep from having to go to war, having to choose.
But back to what I was trying to say about it was they unearthed these Indian burial grounds, mounds, and they said the smallest one was over 7 foot tall. The remains, they measured it out, and the remains was of they called them the tree people, and they said that they were like a prehistoric or near the Sutton period. I just remember reading about it. I mean, I'm not going to go into great detail. Huh?
Was they red hair?
I don't know. I remember reading about something about the tree people down in Charlton County. It was the Indian tribe. They wound up unearthing the mounds, and they found these giant people. They were so big that they were the Spaniards wrote in their documentation that they were tree people because they were tall.
Oh, they were tall like trees. They weren't in the trees.
No, they were as tall as Georgia pines. They were tall people. So it could be that one of these tree people, they went down and hid, and they didn't have razors to clean themselves up.
I'm not going to just grow hair like that. I'm not going to. If I go into grow a bunch of hair.
Look, David, this is like on your face right now. Mm-hmm. Is what 1.5 week, 2 week grow?
No, that's a lot more than that.
A month?
Oh, that's a lot more. I haven't shaved in probably a year. I just trim it. But that's not even the point. The point is, we're not.
The point is,
you can take a domestic pig.
Look at this.
You can take a domestic pig and you can put it in the wild and it'll grow wild hair.
Yeah.
But I don't think people
Seminole Indians are the one that was the government sent to Florida. They had a reservation down in the Everglades for the Seminole Indians. And Billy Bowlegs, he married a white woman. And he would come back, he'd jump the reservation, and he would come back to visit with her and be with his family. They'd come and get him, they'd send him back. Well, that one time, he asked for Big Mac to take him back on the train.
And this is the same guy that had was foreman. This Big Mac you talking about? What's this got to do with the Cryptide?
Well, you were bringing in about the Indian mounds.
All right, was this bow-legged Indian? Was he tall?
I have no idea. I never seen him, but he was. He lived in the Ware County part of the Okefenokee.
Okay. Well, let's get back on the subject of the Cryptide. So what you're saying is that this creature, he grabbed them with his hands, he snapped their necks, they died. The ones that were left, they destroyed all evidence. They possibly stacked the bodies and burned them.
Why?
That is one report.
Well,
questions.
I could see, depending on how far down in they were, and the fear that there would be other creatures like that.
But why burn the bodies? I might would burn the Sasquatch body. I don't even know that would be logical.
Back then, you wanted to dispose of something. You wanted to give whatever. Yeah.
Well, it was during a drought. It would have been hard for them to canoe them out of there. They would have had to carry them for ever how many days that they walked, because everything was just about dried up.
Well, that makes sense. A Viking burial, sure.
Yeah, I mean.
And they weren't going to take time to bury them.
Say 1829. I'm going to write this down. 1829.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. So what's to say, let's look at all angles of this. What's to say that 10 men didn't go in there and have a squabble and kill the other 5 and then say, hey, well, Bigfoot did it.
Yeah.
We burned the bodies. We don't know. No evidence.
Get to cussing each other out. They was probably down there drinking the black drink and got all. But the Indians refer to the liquor as the black drink. So, that's what I heard one time anyway. It's called the black drink. So
stay away from the black drink.
Yeah, don't drink the black drink. You might start shooting. Black powder balls at
some kind of law in that a sheriff or something that when they went back and told the story that they went down and investigated.
Yeah.
And surely if you can get into the archives of the newspapers of that period of time, you will find information where somebody surely went in and brought the bodies out.
Well, you would think so. It still doesn't make a lot of sense. I think what we're dealing with here is several different stories that's been diluted and changed. Little small things changed, and we're trying to piece them together. It doesn't make a lot of sense that they would burn the bodies, but who knows?
Yeah, I mean... Well, out of respect, would you bury the bodies?
Well, like she said, the sheriff has to go in there. 10 people went out to the swamp, and 2 to 4 to 5 came back.
Yeah.
So they're gonna still be asking questions. Hey, where is my husband? Where is my son?
Well, you sure that they had a family.
Well,
If they were hunters, that's the way they got their food. They went out and they hunted.
right.
So
they were going
specifically
to
hunting for this.
So they were specifically hunting for the Bigfoot.
Well,
Were they going to eat 'em?
according to what I read, they went in there to hunt the Bigfoot.
Okay.
Like this.
And in another article pertaining to this, written by someone else, said that the last Bigfoot was killed by a hunting knife.
So
There's no proof of that. There's no.
Wait. You talking about something 13 feet tall and a little scrawny ass human was able to get within proximity? My knife's this big.
You're exaggerating again.
Even a sword wouldn't have did much damage to him.
So no, I don't believe. I think that's bullshit story right there. That a little scrawny ass human was able to get in proximity and kill the Bigfoot, 13 feet tall, with a 21-inch foot.
I'm going to say this. I think that a lot of these stories are exaggerated. I think the height, the foot size, I think all of these things are exaggerated. I honestly think that there probably was a large creature out there that they come in contact with. But other than that, the story kind of breaks apart in other details. We're gonna need.
And Miss Cox, I wasn't saying that you telling a bullshit story. I'm saying the whoever's account that was. I think that's just that's too much for me to believe. That would be like saying somebody that run up against a bear, a grizzly bear,
they add something to it, or they take something away from it. That's the reason I want to see the original.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
That's where they're gonna get their
What
information.
they put in the paper of that period of time. Because it has been redone and redone and redone. Every year somebody writes another episode of it.
All right, so not meaning to cut you off, we're running out of time.
She could probably help with that other story, Mark's story.
Yeah. Well, we will discuss that.
You want to do that later?
Yeah. So, we appreciate you coming on the show. Like I said, this is Juanita Cox. She is a published author. She has 3 books. You can find them on Amazon. It's The Dark Dreams of Yesterday, Revenge, and Ruby's Silver Lining. Books they're fiction, correct?
Yeah, tell us a little bit about the books.
It's in Ruby's Silver Lining and Dark Dreams of Yesterday. They are sequence. Ruby's is sequence to the Dark Dreams.
Okay.
Some of the story is based on actual facts.
Okay. Well, maybe we'll have maybe we'll come on and have a podcast where you just talk about your books and let everybody know. We got to cover a few more things before we finish up here, and there's a professor of anthropology at Idaho State University. He works in the Department of Biological Science. His name is Don Jeff Meldrum, and he also is professor in the Department of Physical and Occupational Therapy and the Department of Anthropology. And he says, according to the evidence that he has been given and that he has examined, and this guy works with the Department of Anthropology and the Department of Anatomy and Biological Science. And he says that given the specific scientific evidence that he has examined himself, that he is convinced that creatures are out there that has not yet been identified. And all a cryptid is basically the study of creatures that have not been discovered yet. I mean, there was several years ago that people said that the giant panda did not exist, that it was a myth. So now we know that the giant panda does exist, and it wasn't just a myth. It was a cryptid cryptid for a while, and then voila, the giant panda is now in zoos and stuff around the world.
Well, there's a few creatures like that, like the giant octopus.
And they're discovering new creatures all the time. There's no telling. It's only a matter of time with all the technology, drones, and you got trail cams. People have pictures. Matter of fact, Miss Cox, you still there?
Yes.
Okay, Miss Cox, you had drew a picture, illustration of the creature. You gave it to us, and I want to apologize for us not being able to put it up. As y'all know, that we were running late tonight. We were working on things. We had technical issues, and what we will do is the stuff that we've talked about, that we do have pictures, we will go into thread after the podcast is over, and we will add these, and then you can.
I'm just gonna put it in the comments beyond because.
But that's a thread. The comments.
Oh yeah, you're right. My bad.
Yeah,
it's a thread.
I know, man. Why don't you let me do the thinking for us?
Of course, you only do that thinking already.
Okay.
Bye.
I appreciate you having me on.
We appreciate you.
I still think that they're real. I think there's some out there now, and I wouldn't blame them one bit.
Well, before we end the call, would you have you? Now you said 1964. You had this sighting. Have you since then? Have you ever seen the Bigfoot or another creature? You grew up around Okefenokee, right?
No.
No?
I married into the family that grew up around the Okefenokee.
All right. Did any of them ever experience a cryptid? Do you? That you know of?
Only was the story that Paul's daddy told me when we first married.
Okay. All right, Miss Cox. We're gonna let you get off the phone. We appreciate what
She told us that story already.
Yes.
Okay.
So we're gonna let you get off the phone, and we appreciate your time. I'm gonna reach out to you because I want to know more about the newspaper clipping. I mean, I'm not saying newspaper clipping's going to legitify anything, but it will be an interesting find. Yes, it would be an interesting find. I think. So, I will go
to a library where you can go into the archives.
All right, I will get Miss Connie that works with us. She's our historian. I will get her to get in touch with you, and maybe the two of y'all can find this newspaper clipping, and then we can bring you back on and let you discuss what you had found.
Okay, that sounds like a plan.
All right. Well, you have a good night, and thanks for coming on. Tell all your friends and family about Paranormal Plus podcast. And with that being said, David and I have a announcement to make tonight. As far as live podcast, we're not going to be doing live except for special events. So we got too much to work on And
there's a lot that goes into podcasts.
Yeah.
Podcasts. There's a lot that goes into it. You got, I mean, even now that we do.
See how much bigger his head is than mine?
Shut up. Even though we do go live, we still have to go back and edit everything and then post it to other social media accounts. But there's a lot that goes into that. So to try to cut back on a lot of the work that we're doing, because you got to remember, we're doing all this for free, or either sometimes some of this stuff comes out of our own personal pockets.
Yes.
So it's not really about the money, but it is about the time.
Yes.
So we're going to start doing,
and
we're going to start posting every Thursday at 8. And we're going to start posting a link to YouTube. So we'd like for you guys to go to our YouTube account and subscribe and follow, and that's it, right? Subscribe and follow on YouTube.
So, subscribe and follow. What we're going to do is, after we do the podcast, we will do it on YouTube. We will take that link from YouTube and put it on the Facebook page. But ultimately, we want you to go to our YouTube page and like and follow. I mean,
Yes.
that's where we're going to be able to get the most help, is when you like and follow us on YouTube.
We would also like to take this time to announce that we have a new member.
Yeah.
We have a new manager, actually, and it's Marion Shipley Thompson. Am I saying that right?
Shipley Thompson.
Shipley?
Yeah.
She's gonna beat me.
Yeah, she probably will. So,
But well,
if she's got a big foot, we know where it's going. So, anyway, before we close tonight, we know that there's other stories about cryptids in the Okefenokee, and we don't mind you telling your story on our show.
right.
You don't even,
Time permitting.
if you don't want to come on the show and be seen, we can do a recording with you, and and we can put it on the show at that time. But there's a creature that back 1980 something. I know that I heard a story where there was this young couple. They were parking down Swamp Road, or Old Hopkins Road, down at the very end at a place called Hamp Mazel. Now, Hamp Mazel, if you go down Swamp Road, you drive. Good God, it's like 15 miles down Swamp Road. I don't know. I've been there. It's been a few years. I think I went with Billy Joe and Elaine took me down there. Elaine Dixon and Billy Joe, I can't think of his name. Anyway, I just know Billy Joe. But they took me down there, and we rode and rode and rode to get there. And it's very within itself. I was always told you don't go down to Hamp Mazel by yourself. You don't go at night. So this couple had went down there, and they were parking, and whatever it was, jumped in the back of their truck. Now, I have contacted the couple got married. They've been married for years. But I got in touch with his wife. He's not feeling well right now, but he hopes to be able to give us an interview where he can tell what happened with him and his wife.
That sounds good.
So,
Good. We need to do our giveaway. We need to let you guys know that we're gonna cut the giveaway back to
once a month
from now on. We're gonna hope that we can give out.
This is what we're giving away. My candle. My special candle. All right, so
I'm thinking tonight we're not
wax
gonna
off.
do what we did last time before. We got a few people on here in the comments. Now I don't know if these people have liked the page or anything yet, so we're gonna have to go in here and check. I need to add this lady, and I think that's about it though. Everybody.
So we need to write their names down.
Yeah, we got Jessica O'Berry, and we got Jessica and Raven.
Jessica and Raven.